I want to call the Columbia County Board of Commissioners June 1st meeting to order. Before Commissioner Skinner opens us with the invocation, I just want to make a comment about Miss Harriet Garrison, who passed away. She was a deputy coroner, I believe, for 15 years. Great person, loved by many, so please keep her family in your prayers. Mr. Skinner, will you open us in the prayer?
I will. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that you have given us, Father. We ask that you continue, Father, to bless the ones that keep us safe, first responders. We bless those that are in the armed forces. Be with them and be with their families. Father, yesterday we had Memorial Day and we honored the fallen soldiers, Father. We pray that we'll keep them in our minds and hearts and their families for what they've done for our country. Father, now we ask that you be with us during this meeting, give us the wisdom that we need, make the decisions for our citizens, for our county. Father, we ask these things in your holy name.
And please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which God is one.
Okay, let the record show we have a full quorum of commissioners. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the previous meeting, May 18th, in your package. If they meet with your approval, I'll accept a motion to do so.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? You also have the May 25th budget work session minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Johnson, are we set on our agenda?
Mr. Chairman, for your consideration, I'd like to add two items to executive session. One is a personnel matter, the other is a property acquisition matter.
Consider it done. We just want to welcome everyone here tonight. I believe these meeting will be recorded and should be on the web, on the county website within a few days. So if you have some reason you want to go back and watch it again, you have our blessing to do so. We'll question why you want to do that. But straight into presentations. Is this Annie Anderson here? No, there's a question whether she was going to be able to make it. Okay, super. And we have Cooper and Chad, y'all both have requested to speak. It's all right, I'm gonna move your, you speaking down till we get to the issue, as opposed to speaking now. Now, Leslie Cromarty, how do you pronounce your last name? You wanna come up and speak, please? You wanna speak about Airbnb? Yes. If you will, just please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 5 minutes or so.
My name is Leslie Kromke. I live at 303 Farmington Drive in Evans. Much to my dismay, I discovered that my neighbors were not selling their house, and that was why it was empty, but they were renting it out on Airbnb. Needless to say, I am not a happy camper. We are extremely concerned for our security, our property value. I mean, who wouldn't be? We live in a subdivision, and nobody knew about this. I just did some research on my own and decided that that's what the situation was. I Googled Airbnb, Evans, Georgia, before I came over here tonight. There's 300 properties listed. So this isn't just in my neighborhood. This is going on other places. Some of them are rooms that people rent out individually. Others are the whole house or a part of their house or whatever, you know. So, I mean, the security issue for us is huge. You know, we're not 20 or 30 years old. We're older. And I feel that Columbia County does a great job of protecting us and watching over our safety, but we don't even know who's over there. I mean, they could be cooking meth over there. They could be screaming human trafficking through there. Who knows? We've been wakened up at 4 o'clock in the morning as they leave, because apparently in Kentucky you don't need a muffler. You know, I mean, it's it just goes on, and they're scheduled out through July. So, I mean, now the homeowners association did write them a letter and tell them to cease and desist, but I can tell you that they won't. I know that they won't. And our subdivision, like many others here in Columbia County, it's an older subdivision. We live in Farmington. So our covenants don't specifically say, you can't rent your house out for 3 days or 5 days. I mean, whose does, unless it's a brand-new subdivision and it's coming to light now? So, I mean, we just really feel that this is a major problem in our neighborhood. And, you know, we already have additional parking issues. We're worried about our property value. If I were selling my house, would I have to disclose that they rent the house next to me as an Airbnb? I mean, I don't know. I don't think it asks for that on the appraisal, but, you know, if somebody asked me, I would have to tell them. And I wouldn't buy a house with an Airbnb next door. I mean, I wouldn't. So, you know, and there's a lot of as a taxpayer, I'm concerned, because when I called the county to find out, I was really disappointed to find out that you don't even need a business license to run an Airbnb. And to me, that was very disappointing. I mean, I feel like the county's missing out on a lot of tax revenue by not taxing this. They should be taxed the same as a hotel or a motel or anything else. They're allowing people to stay there per night. I know if you stay in a hotel, they charge you a tax for every night that you're there. And then, you know, there's things like safety inspections and all those other kind of things that come into play. I mean, nobody knows. And it's a real concern for us as citizens here. And I really had hoped that the county had addressed this previously. Like I said, I was disappointed that y'all hadn't. So I thought I would bring it up tonight and see if this is something you all could act on or work on or anything. And if there's anything at all that I can do to assist, I would be glad to do that.
Scott, can you help me remember, I know in the state, started talking about passing the legislation, which they did, I guess, July 1st now.
Correct,
It is taxed,
correct,
July 1st.
correct.
And I know we looked into it on a county level, but frankly, I just don't remember the gory details.
So
We
the
don't
way,
have the staff to go like a hotel to check somebody's rooms. Anyway, go ahead.
so we were looking at the possibility of doing just that, as to whether or not we should have a hotel motel type or lodging type tax that we should lodge with people in Airbnbs. About the same time we were discussing that, if you remember, Shelley Blackburn with our CVB actually came up and made a presentation on this, but the state was considering legislation at the same time. So we followed the state legislation. As you know, we're very active at the Capitol, and we watched that legislation go through. And they actually did approve the bill that would apply to short-term rentals, Airbnb. So they do have to collect and pay taxes, lodging taxes on those units effective July the 1st. The county can opt out of that if we choose to. And it's been my understanding this board has no inclination or desire to opt out of that for these very reasons. We've had issues in the past with Airbnb, and we feel like at least if they're going to tax them, that may deter some of certain activity. I'm not sure that it'll deter all activity. But at this point, this board has taken no action, or I've been given no direction to opt out of that lodging tax.
Can't opt out of the whole thing, can you?
You can, yeah. So you could pass, this board could pass a resolution opting out of collecting that hotel motel tax. There are places around the state that are doing that have a lot of short-term rentals for whatever reason. Their citizens don't want to pay that tax, so they're coming to their local board of commissioners asking them to opt out. I think the opposite has been true here. I don't know that we've had a tremendous amount of people asking us to opt out.
This isn't the same as like renting your house out for the week for the master.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, this is like a totally much bigger thing. And again, not knowing who's next door, Columbia County Sheriff's Department doesn't know who to watch out for. Because I feel like, you know, we've been residents here for 21 years. I feel the Columbia County Sheriff's Department, they know when there's a problem in your neighborhood. Sometimes you'll see increased presence, then you kind of, something's going on, you know, because they know what's going on. But with these people in and out by the week, they don't know. Plus, add to the fact that with an Airbnb, I've heard rumors that people go there and they stay for a month or 3 weeks or whatever, then they move somewhere else. There's no credit check, there's no background check, there's no nothing. They're just in and they're out. So you have to wonder, what's going on with that?
Well, the tax part is taken care of, and I guess we can ask the county to look into what, if anything, we can do about situations like that. And I know that from a law enforcement perspective, have to have, it be citizens' complaints, but in terms of some kind of code, I just don't know.
You could, I think you could, there was legislation that was actually pending, I don't believe it passed, but there was legislation that was pending that would actually prohibit a local government from passing any sort of prohibition to short-term rentals. I don't believe that one got through, but that's something that's been discussed, because there are people on both sides of the aisle here. We could do something to limit or regulate short-term rentals, potentially permit short-term rentals. But again, you would have to have the staff to be able to enforce that. You all know we operate extremely lean. The sheriff's office, for them to enforce it, it would have to be an ordinance that we would have to pass. There'd have to be some sort of penalty assigned to that. But it's certainly something we can look into if that's what this board wants to do. I mean,
At the very least, we can look into it.
yeah, it absolutely can be looked into.
Taken.
Yes, sir.
I would greatly appreciate that.
Sure.
I really would. Somebody could contact me and let me know when that's going to happen or what the result is, or if it's a meeting that I can attend. Again, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming out and making this aware to be addressed out, and because we've gotten calls before in other neighborhoods, and they just kind of went away when we really didn't have anything in place. But out in a meeting, I appreciate it, and we're aware that there are some issues looking at anyway. Whether
Well-
we can or can't do anything, we'll see.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you for calling me on a Sunday.
Commissioners, you have the consent agenda in front of you. Each one of these items has been through the necessary committee and received the votes to be placed on this consent agenda. So if they still meet with your approval, I'll accept one motion to approve them all.
I motion to approve all of them.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. On to 8, and I believe we're straight to have the second reading of the ordinance. Mr. Skinner?
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance number 2101, amending Chapter 22, Article 5, regulation of timber harvesting, with the effective date being the day after adoption.
Second?
Yes, sir. This is following in line with state law that allows us to now collect a bond prior to timber harvesting, a $5,000 bond. It also provides for a mechanism of applying for these permits online through a state-run website. So as soon as that is up and running, we will follow in line and do that.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. I believe you're still up, Commissioner.
Okay, item A1 is file RZ 210502. I'll make a motion to approve the request for a conditional use for a special event facility for property located tax map 074A133.
Second?
Second.
This is a request for a conditional use to the zoning. Use would be to allow bridal showers, rehearsal dinners, special events to be held. They are going to be held indoors per the applicant, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. roughly, I believe is what they stated.
Any questions? Raise your right hand. Carries.
File A2 RZ 210503. I make a motion to approve the request to modify an existing zoning condition for property located at tax map 052-037, subject to the conditions enumerated in the May 20th, 2021 Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is the first of a two-part action we'll take here. The first one is to change conditions, as you stated. One of the conditions that was placed on this zoning required for a 50-foot buffer along Hamilton Road. When they submitted their concept plan, they're asking to change that condition, actually have that condition removed. What they're looking to do is instead of mass grading all the way up to Hamilton Road, they're looking to put in large acre lots along Hamilton Road. Once they do that, they will actually use some natural area here as a buffer, and then they will mass grade the remaining section of the property. So it's just a change in the condition that was placed on them by the board. If you are so inclined to approve this one, we will take up a variance request on the next one.
Is the applicant here?
Apparently not. Are there any questions? All in favor?
Yeah.
What was that condition?
Condition was that the 50-foot buffer had to be along Hamilton Road. So current code requires, any kind of mass grading requires a 50-foot buffer.
But they would have had some smaller lots along Hamilton Road.
If they could have fit them in there,
They just-
correct. So it's in the code that the 50-foot buffer is required for mass grading, but then commission also stated that there would be a 50-foot buffer along Hamilton Road. That was when we saw the first concept, but I believe it was showing smaller lots all the way up to Hamilton Road, while the condition was placed.
Do we now have a different owner for this property than had it approved in January of 2020?
I don't believe so. I believe it was a condition of sale. So now that the zoning was approved, it's probably a new owner. Developer probably owns it now.
Okay.
I think it's the same group moving forward that originally came to us.
Because affecting this very run along Hamilton Road in January 2020, condition number 1, address traffic. The developer is required to provide traffic calming measures on any proposed land service street with straight sections longer than 500 feet. And then they'd have to have a mandatory meeting with you. Has anyone approached you with any plans for,
They've submitted their,
this is along Hamilton Road, right?
They're in process traffic study. They have not completed it at this time, and they will have to do that prior to first concept and preliminary.
So you're saying this traffic study for Hamilton Road is coupled with the traffic study for Wrightsboro Road? Two different locations.
I'm not aware of a traffic study for Hamilton Road itself. Our
That's-
condition was for internal to the neighborhood. That's a
Right.
standard condition for every neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So they've not had a meeting with you, and this run is longer than 1,700 feet. I'm not an expert in using the maps, but it's,
But no, so they've not finalized their traffic study. They have not brought it to us to review. No, sir.
so they have not approached the original conditions of the approval and
Not yet. They have not submitted their plans for approval at this time either.
But all of the conditions would apply.
Correct.
So if the commission grants this variance, all the rest of the conditions are still gonna be in place.
Correct.
Correct.
I'm trying to get a read on, there's a bridge across there. Do you know what kind of traffic that is supposed to carry?
It'll all be part of our traffic study. They'll show us those numbers.
Vehicular traffic? So they have an option of using that bridge for vehicular traffic if they didn't have approval.
I'm not following you. Say that one again?
If they didn't have approval tonight for the change, for these 8 lots, 7 lots, I guess, then they would have the option of using, they would be using an old plan with that bridge to address those lots,
They
to
will.
access those lots.
That's correct. Yes, they would have to build by the original concept if they chose to move forward. Correct.
Spencer?
Turn lane. Other part of a different developer, do we know moving forward or not moving forward, or where that's at?
That hasn't been submitted. There's some issues. consideration on that. That's part of the reason. One of the reasons it was tied to a future phase that I believe was Oak. And so they haven't moved forward with that phase, so that's part of what the trigger for that turn lane requirement.
And that was on a 12-acre parcel that was approved there, that particular one. It seems they haven't moved ahead with anything and met any of the conditions that are set forth in the old, so we're not slowing them down if we don't approve anything tonight.
Correct. They have not submitted plans for approval. They're basically asking to be able to submit a new plan to us with the same conditions minus the buffer requirement.
Are they taking out smaller lots, essentially? They adding or taking away?
I think our numbers went down on this one. Small lot number went down, the large lot number went up, this plan.
Good chance that what you see before you tonight will probably be by a number of lots as well when they get into final engineering phases as various elements, whether that's stormwater or the sewer, that nature. There's going to be some tweaking of this. Probably lose a couple more lots.
R2 is a minimum of 10,000 square feet.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Motion, a second on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed?
A3 is VA 210502. Make a motion to approve the request for a variance to section 90-139, buffer and screening for property located at tax map 052037, subject to the conditions enumerated in the May 20th, 2021 Planning Commission report.
Is there a second? I'll second. So there's a motion on the floor. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Carries. I think we're up to the one we had folks requesting to speak.
That's correct.
Well, let's see. Chad, no, Cooper. Cooper Clyde is first. Commissioner, if you come up and say your name and address for the record, we'd appreciate that.
Cooper Clyde, 5402 Highway 220 East in Lincoln. And Mr. Chairman, commissioners, directors, and staff, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'd like to thank Richardson for coming on site today and looking at our situation with us and everything. And I would never do anything to hurt any of our neighbors. In fact, before Pesh moved in, I loaned them parking space for their weekday funerals when it overflowed. It overflowed often even back then, but I allowed them to park. But now that Pesh has come on board and they moved in the building we were in, and we moved next door, there's no more available overflow parking, so everything's in the street now on Shaw Street. So that took 44 parking spaces away. Tells you what we're up against and all. And I think it's real obvious that McNeil does not have enough parking spaces to handle the funerals that he has on site during the weekday, for sure. And when they park on both sides of the road, it's a problem for traffic. Especially a car can get through if it's real careful, or if people getting in and out of the car, you got to worry about taking the doors off. But a delivery truck or tractor-trailer truck has issues for sure. And what I'm commenting on, I guess, is instead of utilizing the existing space to help the parking situation, I gave each one of y'all a sketch to look at, this space to help. They wanted to ask for a variance to build more buildings instead of adding parking. In fact, 1,860 square feet of buildings. And now we find they have a new out-of-state owner pushing for this variance. And he is in the business of farming out cremations to all the CSRA. So actually, instead of having less traffic, we're going to end up with more. In the last 6 months, there was 2 tracts of land across from the front door of McNeil Rollins Funeral Home, both of them for sale for months. They both have closed in the last 6 months. Now, it would have been a good answer for all this, would give them adequate parking, and it's marked on that. Lots are right straight across from the front door for them. One is a commercial and one's a residential lot across from the front door. But if they had taken the effort to work on that and get those lots and all our problems would be a little bit simpler. Instead, they chose not to do that. The traffic flow from Pesh, and I'm sure Chad will address this a little bit, he brings them in on one side and brings them out the other, as most of his clients are elderly, and they have to drive the complete length of Shaw Street, but it's better for them because at the top of the hill is a good line of sight. You can see a long ways away. They did have some issues with wrecks at their previous location. He may address that for you, all that. But anyway, I'm just asking you not to add to the problem. We've already got a problem. If we don't do something more about parking, and we got an out-of-state absentee business owner that's from North Carolina, I don't think he's going to have any concern about Shaw Street problems. He wants to make sure his business does well. And in the very least, on that drawing you got, you see where there's 4 businesses: Augusta Telephone, Pesh, Great Murray has 5 units in a shopping strip, and Harvard Wine and Beverage are all on the sewer system. And I told Planning and Zoning, because they said in the Planning and Zoning meeting they didn't have sewer available. That's the reason they couldn't use that building to tie it into his existing building. Because if he tied it to existing building, it'd be better for everybody, and they recommend that on the paperwork from the people that made the cremation device. So if they could add to that, it'd be good if he tied into it. He's 75 feet away from a sewer tap. It's right there on that drawing. And I asked Danielle to send somebody out, and I'd show them, and nobody ever came from Planning and Zoning to look at the sewer. It's existing sewer there, and probably one easy out for everybody, to make everybody a little happy, I think, was them to tie into the sewer, build onto the existing building, keep good parking on the outskirts of the lots, and they wouldn't even need a variance, I don't believe. But anyway, thank you for your time. I certainly appreciate you being kind enough to listen. Thank you.
Chad McCrickert?
Matt, while he's coming up, is that a possibility for them to tie into that sewer like he's,
Dig into it while he's talking.
Chadwick McCrickard, address is 212 Flowing Wells Road. We recently moved into 3845 Martinez Boulevard, which is directly behind McNeil's Funeral Home. My wife purchased the land 2 years ago, and in that, what we were looking for was an area that was more safe for our clientele, and having that exposure from a main road like Martinez Boulevard is what helped us make that decision. And making that decision, we thought that our building was somewhat protected with the setbacks that were in place. So that's the reason we're opposing the variance, because on the proposed building site, which on this, it's on the screen now, I only see the one building of 40 by 40 that's being added, but in their request, they're also asking for 260 square foot addition. I could not find where that's at, if somebody could point me to that as well, but where that 40 by 40 building is where they're asking for that variance in the upper right-hand corner, and that puts it almost directly covering our building, which is going to make it more difficult to find. I believe that if you go out, and maybe Mr. Richardson can attest to this if he was out there today, if they put it right where those oak trees are, it's going to be a looking back situation where we could have the potential for the same traffic problems we were trying to get away from on Bel Air Road when we purchased the property. The other issue that we have with this is the traffic and the parking. While I would not compare McNeil's to an Elliott Sons or Platts that's in the county that has, a lot more acreage and land and a lot more space, I wouldn't kind of compare them to a King's Funeral Home. And from what I understand from Tommy Jr., they've got over 50 or 60 spaces with additional overflow parking and a lot behind them to accommodate for that. So when we're looking at what's there and what's coming and what else is in the county to accommodate it, that's what I would say we should look to, is other businesses that have that same type of traffic flow and traffic need and situation as far as parking. We do have UPS, FedEx, and not only the smaller trucks, but the FedEx and UPS tractor trailers that come to our location daily. We also have other tractor trailer carriers, RL lines, say, a lot of other tractor trailers that come through that do deliver. And if there's any parking on the street whatsoever, that's going to impede them getting in or out. I know everybody's time is precious, so that's kind of what I had to say. If there's any other questions of me. I understand we're in a setback, but you know, we thought we had the protection of that setback, and that's what we're opposing.
Lamar to come
Hello, Mark McCoy with SD Clifton, 213 Ansley Way. Happy to answer any questions.
forward. Got anything about and what?
I'm basing it off of our maps online, which is good, but it's not guaranteed perfect. I'm showing it across Old Evans Road, and I'm also showing it on Commercial Boulevard, but I'm not seeing it close to this area. Quite a punch to get to it.
What we understand, it wasn't available, and I think Mr. Butler, I can't swear that he researched it, but I know he made a comment in the previous meeting that it wasn't available. When, I can't speak for Mona 100%, but I don't think that we would have an issue tying into sewer. Obviously, if we could get off septic tank, that'd be great.
So the septic tank is part of the reason that you need to get back on the back corner, right? So if you could tie into the sewer, you could probably tie that
We can move further up towards the middle of the lot.
or toward the building and open up some parking, and then you're not on the drain field or that stuff.
That's correct. And again, the crematory is not adding traffic flow. We're gonna still have the same traffic that they had before. It's gonna be a crematory where the same staff that's already working there will handle the cremations. It may increase hearse, more frequently because they are doing cremation than before, but as far as services, they don't anticipate, they're not adding seats to the building or anything like that, so the chapel's not growing. The owner called me today and said that they are looking at a piece of property that was for sale. Then the guy said he didn't want to sell. Now they are going to approach with him. We're going to meet with him tomorrow at 3 o'clock to see if it's a viable option to maybe move the chapel across the street and increase parking across the street. But it's a little early to tell whether that'll pan out or not.
As early as Fetch is there, I mean, they've only been there a couple of weeks, and obviously when Cooper was allowing 40 spaces, they were having funerals, and now, I was there today, Fetch's parking lot was full, I mean, with vans and employee vehicles and all, and
Right.
a funeral wasn't going on, but if people were having to park on those streets and delivery trucks coming, I could see where there is a concern for sure. I don't have any other questions I have.
What about Chad mentioned a building, 260, not on the diagram?
Yes, sir.
Just going
Go back to where you were.
Go back where, yeah.
Yeah,
Going. Right there.
Oh, right there.
I understand it.
Back into the garage.
You can draw on that.
Can you
screen.
touch it,
Just use your
Lamar, and
finger.
show us?
Yeah, Lamar, you could use your finger and
It
draw
was,
there.
gonna be, I think it was 8 feet wide, the width of the building, of the garage.
So it's not on this diagram.
It should have been on an earlier preliminary. And then Bo did this one, and I don't think Bo captured it.
So if you were able to tie into sewer, you could incorporate this into your existing building lines?
If we can tie into the sewer, we can definitely take a look at putting the building in a different location or expanding the building itself. But we know right now our septic tank's right in this area here, and it drains back off this way.
Where did you say sewer was, Matt?
Showing one piece of sewer way up here, and I'm showing another sewer way over here, other side of Old Evans Road.
I've asked Mr. Clayton a lot about extending sewer, being in District 4. People pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
If it's worth it to them, they pay for it. But that's some distance from your facility. People don't like the figures when they get them from them.
I do know that we have the site here, we have a concept plan in for those folks right now, and they're showing going under Old Evans Road to their closest sewer. If there was sewer back here, that would have I think they'd want to tap into that as well.
What is the plan if this is denied today? What is your plan?
We'd really have to get with my owners and regroup. You know, they really need the crematory. If we need to redesign where we could put it on the lot, I think they'd be open to that. Obviously, they wanted to try to increase their parking as well because it's beneficial for everybody. But at the same time, you know, we've got constraints.
Does he own another one in town, another crematorium?
I believe so, but you'd have to ask my client. I'm not 100% sure. I know he's from Peachtree City, Georgia, not out of state.
If you have more than 30 people at an event like this, I know your market, you have observances, you have memorials. If you have more than 30 people at one of your memorials, where do they park?
You'd have to ask him. I'm not in the front
Okay.
of the builder.
Question stands, sir, as soon as you tell us who you are.
Name and address for the record.
My name's Anthony Sorrells. I live at 716 Jones Creek. I am a regional manager for Rollins Funeral Service, who owned Poteet Funeral Home on Peach Orchard Road, the funeral home that burned. Our plan is to join McNeil for the crematory, and that's the purpose of the crematory. Because we won't be building at Peach Orchard. That's what the plan is. So we are local. Our owner lives in Peachtree City. He doesn't live out of state. Or we are local.
How many funerals do they have on average? Unless that's a trade secret.
Our business is mostly cremation. We may have had out of the Poteet location on Peach Orchard 7 traditional funerals in 1 year. We mainly do cremation because we have Central Savannah River Crematory. That's our main business is
So at McNeil.
so that's why it would not add any additional, gatherings or funeral ceremonies or anything like that.
So does McNeil have any funerals over there, or do you know that? You said Poteet, south side. What do we have at McNeil?
McNeil is a large cremation services rather than traditional.
But this facility has memorials and observances, right?
Mainly memorial services.
Yes.
If any, a lot of memorial services are held at churches or other
That's my
facilities.
understanding. Yeah, well, my wife had actually attended one there, and there were a fair number of vehicles there. Where do they park when the parking at the facility is exceeded?
Well, I'm just coming on board with McNeil, or I won't say coming on board, we're just now merging with McNeil. So I can't tell you where they've been parking in the past.
I like Commissioner Richardson drove around it, and I didn't see that the parking was spacious. I certainly can see from overhead that it's not.
And as Lamar mentioned, we are in negotiation with property next to McNeil. We would add, be more than happy to add parking.
They doing their
At a facility in North Augusta. We had our own crematory on Peach Orchard.
You're just getting affiliated with, so they were doing theirs in North Augusta, and y'all were doing your thing
We
in
were
South
doing
Augusta.
McNeil's cremations at Peach Orchard.
Okay.
Questions?
So I'll pose the question to you. If this is denied, will you still be able to use your business? Is there any other way you can put a crematory within the confines of the given setbacks?
Um,
I'll answer that
At
for
that
you.
location, probably not.
If you look at the screen here, the green lines, that's the existing setbacks for this piece of property. It is completely surrounded by roads, therefore the buildable space is that.
Right.
So
Whoa now.
And the crematory will not house anything other than just the crematory itself. There won't be any plumbing, there won't be anything, it will hold only the retort for the cremation process.
As you receive one of the departed, do you have a need for storage at any time?
For storage,
Say somebody's waiting.
what storage we would need we could use it, you know, the building, the room in the building. That's the question you're asking?
Well, I don't know all the regulations about storing of remains. I don't.
Oh, absolutely not. No, there would not be any deceased remains in that building other for the only for the cremation process.
Paper said that you would be doing 500 to 600 cremations a year? Is
No,
that
we do,
correct?
we would do probably 300 cremations a year. What I mentioned was traditional funerals.
500 to 600 traditional funerals a year?
No, ma'am, cremations, 300 plus cremations.
What was the 500 to 600 number in the newspaper? Did you see today's paper?
That Mr. McNeil stated?
I believe so, yes.
Right. If you counted what Poteet did on Peach Orchard and McNeil, it may come to 500. However, since the fire at our location on Peach Orchard, of course, a lot of those calls have gone elsewhere. So, you know, I can't guarantee you that we'll pick those families back up. So, you know, I would say anywhere from 3. Hopefully future would be more calls, but.
What was the source of that fire at Peach Orchard?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes, what was the source of it?
The first of it, are you all speaking of the newspaper article?
No.
Burned to
What
the
was the
ground.
source of the fire at Peach Orchard that you're speaking of? What was the source of it?
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning
Oh,
unit?
what caused the fire?
Yes, sir.
It was the air conditioning unit
Air
in the
conditioning.
attic, yes.
I'm looking at overhead, and I drove around there, I couldn't spot a fire hydrant anywhere.
I think they were, the manager of that location, was there a fire hydrant? Yeah. I don't know, it was in the attic, and the HVAC unit caught the attic on fire. It was totally on fire before we even realized the building was on fire because it
That's
was.
happened very close to here before.
Go back to my question. If this were denied today, would you or would you not be able to use that property for, the current business that you're doing, would you still be able to do your current business? And B, could you do the cremations inside? I don't know.
Well,
is
we
that
would
thing?
have to do cremations elsewhere, use another company for our cremations. Now, I can't say at this moment if we would stay at that location or find another location.
Like you may have outgrown this location since it's landlocked?
Due to the change in funeral service, with cremations outnumbering traditional funerals, no, that location, the size would be okay for that. Because cremation is far more, people are choosing cremation over traditional funerals.
But people are still having services, even though it's a cremation, you go greet family and do whatever.
Yeah, they're still having services. A lot of services are held, at a church, at a home. The way in which funeral service used to exist is slowly changing. There's not as many funerals at the funeral home as there.
More questions?
And the property we're currently looking at, one of the things that we would add to that building is a larger facility in the event that we did have memorial or funeral services or anything. The seating capacity would be bigger. less than 100 people. But it would also give us a chance to add more parking.
How many employees do you have there during the day?
I think Kevin McNeil has 3 employees. We will bring on board 2, possibly 3 more employees.
That takes up all the parking. But from this overhead, it looks like there's maybe 7 spots right there.
I'm not
That
sure.
all the employees would take up the parking on site?
11 on site.
Oh, and these over here on the
4 more.
lower side over here, okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Is that it? Thanks.
Thoroughly vetted this subject. Is there a motion to be made?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to deny the request for a variance to section 90-98, list of lot and structural requirements for property located at tax map 077C 027. Reduce the building setbacks for existing and proposed structures subject to the condition enumerated in the May 2021 Planning Commission.
Second.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. Table for 2 weeks to allow to see if there were the sewer, they could do it, and then they could connect to the existing building and create some more parking. I don't know how many places that they could get there, but it seems like that could possibly serve both parties or all parties involved if the sewer was available and it could.
Also give them time to look at the property across the street.
There's a substitute motion on the floor. Is there a second for that substitute?
Second that one.
Substitute motion is to table this for 2 weeks. Questions? All in favor of tabling this for 2 weeks? Right hand. Now we vote on the original motion. You have a second?
Yes, sir.
There's a motion to deny the variance and a second. All in favor of denying the variance, raise your right hand. All opposed? That motion carries. 3-2. Okay. And is there anybody to speak on this next one?
Everybody, it's been a little while.
State your address.
I'm Billy Frankie, live at 7111 Grayson Drive, Graniteville, South Carolina, 29829. We're working on rezoning a parcel on Riverwatch Parkway, 4400 Riverwatch, for C3 with a conditional use for light industrial. We're going to build a building there, lease out to tenants. We've already got a preliminary site plan ready to go. And I think it's the highest and best use. We got buffers behind the building where the creek is. You got industrial all around it. Nothing's really going to be developed to the north because of accessibility and problems with the overpass of Riverwatch Parkway. And with that, I'll take any questions.
You already have a contract on the property?
No, we're not selling it. We're developing it.
Going to develop it and rent it.
We're going to build buildings to rent out to prospective tenants, and we're looking for a good bunch, as many uses as possible, because we really don't know what's going to be out there. But thinking about having some industrial units with some office and warehouse space, maybe a dentist, lawyer, small business person, showroom space, that kind of thing. And we're going to build buildings there to rent out to
And I can
people.
only speak for myself. I definitely want that all to turn commercial,
This is commercial, yes, sir.
but we generally don't give speculative zoning.
It's not speculative zoning.
You have a contract. Actually, you've already
I
said,
do not have a leasing contract for somebody to lease the space that's not been built yet. No, sir.
but there's no contract. Are you going to build it yourself?
Doug Edmondson, working for him. Gusta Flooring is my client. He's building the building, and I'm helping him with the development, and I'll lease out the spaces for him.
Can we go back to the screen that has the zonings on it, please?
So do y'all have a timetable on passes when you development or submitting plans and developing?
The engineer is already engaged. We're just waiting for zoning to pass so that we can start on the final plans. There's a long history to it, but simply, Mr. Edmondson wanted just to grade it and clean up some property because he had some money that he wanted to put into the property to start improving it. And we had a meeting with all the county staff, all the different departments about this, because I didn't understand why you couldn't do that without having it rezoned. So now we're rezoning and we're going to go in through with the process.
Mine coming up. State your name and address for the
Doug
record.
Edmondson, my address is 674 Glen Abbey Drive in Martinez.
Thank you for being here. So you're going to develop it yourself?
Yes.
Okay, and that's generally what we try to do is there's always a plan for a piece of property before we change the zoning. And so it does not normally happen that somebody comes and has zoning without a specific plan and what they were going to do. That's where the hesitation is. And again, I can only speak for myself. We want it to be commercial. Once you get a C3 zoning, it's fairly wide open. What can be built, and so.
Well, I bought the property 10 years ago, and I had thought about moving my store down there. Wanted more space. I'm 10 years older now.
Preach it, brother.
And I made it through the recession. Now I'm going to build the building on there and lease it out. Retire soon. I'll be 64.
Congratulations.
And I've had all the fun I can have down on Bobby Jones. Whatever I need to do, I intend to build it. I retire, I can have joy of my fruits of my labor the last 30 years here.
Lord willing, I'm with you.
Normally what we do have, sir, is someone like Billy Frankie approaching with a contract in hand, and the contract is conditional upon the zoning. Those things are absent here, which is why we call it speculative zoning.
Let me explain. I try to use my money very wisely, and why would we want to do engineering and get final plans and then come to zoning and then spend all that money to find out y'all wouldn't zone it? So we've just taken this as a step process. Why spend the money until we know we can do it?
Require final plans for zoning.
You've got to approve the final plans, not for zoning. I'm sorry.
Right, so obviously if it's zoned R3 and he comes in with a commercial set of plans, we're not going to approve the plans.
Right.
Right.
So we're going to wait to see the zoning gets approved before the plans get approved. I understand what he's saying. He's saying he's got a plan, he's showing our concept, but he don't want the full design until you approve, if you.
But Doug, you're saying it's your intent to build this building the way your concept's laid out? You don't have any other intentions other than building this the way it's laid out?
I haven't, no, like we planned.
Okay.
We do have parcels that are zoned, and the zoning wasn't tight enough, and another type of facility went in there. Once we zone it, the bird is out. There's nothing we can do about that.
Questions?
Zoning next door, it says, is labeled CC. What is next door to you?
Yeah, the photo.
Photoshop.
House that they turn into a photography
There's
studio.
a pet something. S1 maybe
Yeah.
the pet.
Meeting was glad we were doing.
Supports what we do. We're good neighbors.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I make a motion to approve the request for a rezoning from R3 to C3 with a conditional use for light industrial use under section 90-147H1A, property located at tax map 078125, subject to the condition enumerated in the May 20th, 2021 Planning Commission.
Second.
Questions? Favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 4-1.
Item A6, I make a motion to approve the request for variances to section 98, list of lot and structural requirements, and 90-139, buffers and screening for property located at tax map 077A, 064A, 063A, 063, 64B.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Mr. Chairman, I'm on, I do have an interest in property, so
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Nobody's opposed with one abstention. Richardson,
sir. I make a motion to approve the first reading of resolutions 21-23 SLD 531 Eagle Creek and 21-24 SLD 516B Brigadier Landing Phase 2, establish street light districts and authorize Georgia Power to proceed with installation per their proposals.
Second?
discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries.
I make a motion to approve the first reading of resolution 21-25, adoption of the permitting fee.
Second.
Discussions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Legal matters.
No legal matters.
No requests for review by committee. Any public comments or participation? I think we have some executive session issues to deal with, two property matters, or a couple of property matters and a personnel matter. Accept a motion to go into executive session.
A motion, we go in executive session, sir.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. We're going into executive session.
We're still here.
Mr. Driver, will you give us a report on our executive session?
Yes, we discussed one property matter and we discussed one personnel matter, and I don't believe we're taking either of those up in open session.
All right, well, I think we do have two open session issues still to deal with. We'll go to Commissioner Richardson.
Sir, I'll make a motion to approve $51,974.94 to Murphy Oil USA parcel 06810 right-of-way and permanent and temporary Horizon South widening project.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to accept the donations of permanent and temporary easements from Adrian and Marianne Rivera, parcel 074H140, Vicky George Ranco III, parcel 0738550, James and Rochelle Witzel, parcel 073A549, Matthew and Kelly Nealon, parcel 074H235, Sherman and Diana Marriott, 074H151, Richard and Pamela Stewart, parcel 074H146, Kyle Conley, 074G025, C&C Holdings LLC, parcel 074G018, Jason and Katrina Jones, parcel 074G024, Gonzala Lopez, parcel 073A555 and 073A556, Cynthia and Jeffrey Perrick, parcel 074G015, Bel Air Baptist Church, Inc., parcel 074176, Stacy Ware, parcel 074H159, Benja Reverson, parcel 074H156, 8, parcel 074G016, Jessica Pereira, parcel 074G019, Crawford Creek Sewer Project.
Thank you. All in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, man, I think that's it, isn't it? Any other motions?
Mr. Chairman, I motion we adjourn.
All in favor, raise your right hand. We're adjourned.